You know you're ready to lead people. Maybe you just got the promotion, or maybe you're on the way there and you just want to be ready for it. And this is the part that no one really prepares you for. No one hands you a manual. There's no playbook for the hard conversations. No one showing you how to actually get the best out of your team. Whether you're already managing a team or you're building toward it and want to be ready, we're covering all of it today. I'm Joanna, former exec at Meta and Spotify. After chasing big waves in my career around the world, I'm here to help you chase yours. In the next 15 minutes, we're going to move you from managing people to actually leading them. We'll cover what's really driving your team's behavior and how understanding it can turn you into the leader they want to follow. How to build real influence as a manager without losing your authority or compromising on expectations. And we'll talk about the 5 most common personalities from people you manage that I've seen across my career and the exact lines you can use to shift them. Don't worry about taking notes. I've got you covered. I put together a full episode guide with the frameworks, the lines you can use, and reflection questions to help you figure out exactly where to start with your own team. It's free. The link is in the show notes. Let's dive in. Here's something I wish someone had told me earlier. The best leaders aren't the ones who never have hard moments with their team. They're the ones who understand their people well enough to know what's actually going on beneath the surface. And that's a skill, one you can absolutely learn. Think about the people on your team right now. Each one might show up differently. One might be really quiet in meetings, not because they're disengaged, but because they're processing internally. Another moves fast and pitches half-formed ideas, not because they're reckless, but because iteration is how they think. Someone else asks a lot of questions before committing, not because they don't want to take action, but because clarity is what unlocks them. None of these are problems. They're just people operating from their own wiring, their own pressures, their own way of making sense of the world. I mean, you start seeing it that way. The moments that feel difficult start to make a lot more sense. Because most of the time, it's not difficult people. It's just different people. That's what takes you from managing around people to actually leading them. One thing I want to be clear about before we go further. Leading with empathy does not mean lowering your expectations. The work still needs to meet the company's standard. What empathy gives you is a better way to get people there. Instead of pushing harder or pulling back, you have an honest conversation. You figure out what's getting in the way, and then you work through it together. The expectation doesn't move, your approach does. If you've listened to episode 4, you know we talked about influencing people when you don't have the title or the authority. Today is the other side of that. You have the authority. The real question is how you use it. After years of managing teams, I figured out what actually moves the needle. And it comes down to 5 things. But I want to be upfront. These aren't tips when everything is running smoothly. Managing people is easy when things are going well. These are for the moments when they're not. That's where most managers struggle. And that's exactly where these 5 things make the biggest difference. The first one is clarity. And I can't stress this enough. Most managers assume their expectations are obvious. This was implied. But if you haven't said it clearly and explicitly, people will fill in the gaps themselves. And the chances of them being on the same page, well, you're leaving it up to chance. So say it out loud. Write it down if it helps. Confirm they've understood. Whatever it takes to make sure you're both on the same page. The second is about listening before you react. When someone misses deadlines, it's tempting to go straight into enforcement mode. But what if you paused first and asked, what's actually getting in the way? Is the scope unclear? Are they overwhelmed? Are they prioritizing the wrong thing because they think it matters more? Those questions change everything, because now you're solving the right problem. The next is to connect their work to the bigger picture. Direct reports don't just want a to-do list. They want to understand why their work matters, how it connects to the team's bigger picture, and what success actually looks like. When someone understands that, it's much easier to take ownership. And as a manager, that's exactly what you want: ownership, not just task completion. The fourth is to name the impact, not the blame. A lot of managers hesitate to name the impact of missed expectations because they're worried about sounding harsh. But here's the thing: it's not harsh, it's clear. Missed deadlines don't just affect one person, they ripple. Walk your team through it. Help them see beyond their individual task so they start thinking about the bigger picture. When people understand the real ripple effect, everything shifts. And lastly, coach instead of correcting through fear. Leading through fear can get short-term results, but it never really builds long-term growth or trust. When someone makes a mistake, how you respond is everything. Come in with judgment and they'll shut down. Come in with curiosity, ask what happened, what got in the way, what they'd do differently, and they'll grow. That's the difference between a manager people fear and a leader people trust. Your job as a manager isn't to control people. It's to help them succeed within clear expectations. That's the whole game. And when you start leading this way, something shifts. You stop being caught off guard. You start recognizing the patterns. And the more you recognize them, the faster and more confidently you can respond. So let me make it even easier. Here are the 5 most common personalities I've seen across my career and exactly how to bring out the best in each one. First up, the person who always has a critique. Sharp eye for problems, but the conversation rarely moves towards solutions. It's easier to point out problems than to solve them. And a lot of people were never taught how to move from insight to action. Or they get stuck when it's time to own the fix, so they stay in critique mode instead. And if you're not careful, you can accidentally reinforce this by listening and empathizing, but never redirecting. Your role isn't to shut them down. It's to raise the bar. Surface issues are welcome, but only paired with action. Try, I hear your concern. What's one step we can take today to move this forward? That one line shifts the dynamic from venting to problem solving. The second one is quieter, but it can stall your whole team's momentum. They don't push back loudly, they just disappear. Deadlines slip, updates go quiet, and when you finally reconnect, there's always a reason. Here's what I've learned about this person. It's rarely about not caring. More often, they're overwhelmed and don't know how to ask for help. Or they're worried about looking like they can't handle it. So they go quiet and hope it sorts itself out. The worst thing you can do is to chase them down with pressure. What actually works is making it safe to speak up early. Create an environment where saying, I'm stuck, is normal and encouraged, not a sign of weakness. Try, I understand that there are challenges. What can we do differently to get this back on track? That we matters. It signals you're in it together, but the expectation still stands. Next up, and this one I have a story about. This one tends to show up during transitions, when you are a new leader to an existing team or rolling out a new process or expectations. And of all the personalities, this one can feel the most personal because their resistance often reads as defiance, a direct challenge to your role. In my experience, resistance is rarely about the change itself. It's about what the change represents. Loss of visibility, loss of control, the fear of becoming less relevant. I've never talked about this publicly before, but it's changed how I lead. So I was sitting with the CEO in my last round interview, being introduced to someone who would be on my team. Before I could say a word, she looked at me and said, I'm not sure why I need you as a manager. You're not an expert in digital marketing. Actually, I should continue to report directly to the CEO. Yeah, the CEO was sitting right there. I was shocked. 2 thoughts hit me at the same time. Gosh, is the CEO questioning whether she's right? And if I get the job, how do I win this person over? I took a deep breath. I stayed calm. I made my case. I got the job, and she stayed difficult for months. And honestly, early on, I was too gentle. I wanted to build the rapport, give her space. All of that was right, but I waited too long to be clear. When I finally established, calmly and respectfully, that I was her manager and mutual respect was non-negotiable, things shifted. And I also really listened with curiosity, not strategically, really listened. What I learned was that her resistance was about visibility. She was afraid of becoming irrelevant. Once I understood that, I could actually lead her and not just manage around her. 6 months later, she told me she finally understood why I was there and that she was grateful for my leadership. What created that shift wasn't force, it was consistency. Respecting her expertise, giving her space to be seen, and being crystal clear about where accountability sat. So with this personality, try, I know this is different from before. How can we make this new approach work for you? This invites collaboration without giving away authority. And sometimes a direct heart-to-heart makes all the difference. Something like, I've noticed it's been hard to move forward on this, and it's caused a few delays. Can we talk about what's going on and how I can help? You'd be surprised how often that opens the door. The fourth personality actually surprises managers the most. They're confident, capable, high-performing, and then something slips. A detail gets missed. A decision doesn't get followed through, and suddenly you're in cleanup mode. These people aren't careless. They just lack a system. They rely on their own instincts in a way that works until it doesn't. So instead of pulling back trust, you introduce structure. You normalize recaps. You align on checkpoints. Thanks for taking this on. Let's walk through what we agreed. I just want to make sure nothing gets missed. That's not micromanaging. That's building a system together. And the last one, this person cares deeply. They ask smart questions. They want to do good work. And yet, decisions take forever. They second guess. They hesitate. They want just a little more information before they move. As a manager, it's tempting to rush them or start making decisions for them. I've done that before. But neither helps them grow. What they need is psychological safety around decision-making, paired with a clear sense of momentum. Your job is to define what good enough looks like. Normalize iteration. Make it clear that decisions can evolve and that progress matters more than perfection. For instance, I really appreciate how thorough you are, but let's lock in your thinking by tomorrow at 3 p.m. We'll have time then to adjust together. That gives them the safety to move. Here's what I want you to take away from today. If the same behavior keeps showing up with someone on your team, it's rarely just about them. It's a signal about clarity, about feedback, about the environment you've created. The most effective thing you can do isn't clamp down. It's get curious, understand what's really going on, and coach from there. And honestly, none of this is easy. I didn't figure it out overnight, and I still don't get it right every time. There are always new situations, new people, new dynamics I haven't encountered before. That's just the reality of leading people. But every time I got it right, even in the hard moments, it was because I slowed down long enough to actually see the person in front of me. That's what separates managers people tolerate from leaders people actually want to follow. Here's your challenge. Identify the one person on your team you most want to lead better. Reflect on what's actually driving their behavior using what we covered today. Then pick one line from this episode and try it in your next conversation. Just one. Keep it curious, keep it clear. Before you go, I put together an episode guide for this one, and I really want you to grab it. It's got the framework, the scripts you can use, and reflective questions to help you figure out exactly where to start with your own team. It's free. Find it in the show notes or head to chasingwaves.co. And if this episode resonated, make sure you're subscribed because next week, I'm getting even more personal. I'm sharing the real lessons from my own journey as a manager, the mistakes, the growth, the things I wish I'd done differently. You won't want to miss it. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Joanna, and let's go chase that wave.